Welcome back to The Right Hook. Shane Coleman standing in for George this week. Now, the British Royal College of Physicians say that e-cigarettes should be widely promoted to smokers to help them quit tobacco and will be beneficial to public health. Dr. Ruairi Hanley has been saying the same thing for some time now. He wrote about this in the Irish Medical Times and the Irish Independent as long ago as 2014. He joins us on the line now. Ruairi, do you feel somewhat vindicated?
A little bit, yeah, but I have to say I'm also disappointed that it's taken so long for the penny to drop in this country. I mean, fair play to the British Royal College of Physicians. They've said what doctors, and a growing number of doctors around the world have been saying for some time now. But here in Ireland, there has been a deafening silence. In fact, worse still, there's been moves in Ireland to go in the exact opposite direction that the British are going in. I'm extremely disappointed. You pointed out there, I have been writing about this in the Irish Medical Times and indeed in the national press for the last number of years. But I was trying to stimulate, at the very least, a discussion among Irish doctors, and the response was dismal. And it's very depressing because 7,000 people a year are dying in this country of tobacco-related illness. And I firmly believe that if we were advocating greater use of these products, that number could be reduced dramatically.
So just remind us exactly what this report from the Royal College of Physicians said about, I mean, look, I suppose when we say the benefits of e-cigarettes, it's obviously better you don't smoke anything. But relative to ordinary cigarettes, what are they saying?
Well, I heard one of the gentlemen behind the report speaking on the radio earlier, and he said, well, look, if you look at the worst possible case scenario for these e-cigarettes, they cause about 5% of the damage that actual cigarettes do. So extrapolating from that, if that is accurate, and I assume it is, we can say that e-cigarettes, they're not perfect. Obviously not smoking at all is far better, but they are hugely, hugely less dangerous than actual cigarettes. 90%, maybe even 95% less dangerous. And what you have a situation is, we have a problem here in that too many people on the anti-smoking campaign have decided to make the best the enemy of the good. So they want complete cessation of smoking. That's a laudable aim. It's not a realistic one. What we have to look at is the possibility of harm reduction, and this is a huge opportunity for harm reduction. So to actually oppose e-cigarettes on the basis that total cessation is better is, to my mind, madness. It's a bit like opposing contraception on the basis that abstinence is better. It makes no sense logically to me, you know.
The arguments, I'm trying to remember the arguments that would have been made against e-cigarettes. One of them, an obvious one, is it's a gateway to smoking, particularly for young people. Well, the
RCP, according to what I'm reading here today, has actually looked at that and said they have not found any evidence of gateway progression into smoking among young people. So, you know, we can only go on what the Royal College of Physicians have told us. I also think that was a somewhat spurious argument. To be quite blunt about it, I'm concerned in the immediate sense of the 7,000 people who are dying every year in Ireland right now. And let's be honest, smoking cessation campaigns have benefited. But the worst figure is the 7,000 deaths a year that can be prevented, you know. But, I mean, what I don't understand about this, the other argument, you were asking about the arguments against this, the other argument is the one I'm hearing now from some quarters, which is we need more research into the long-term effects of these products. I mean, to be honest, again, I find this ridiculous. We know what the long-term effects of cigarette smoking are. They're called lung cancer, heart disease, stroke, death, etc. So are we going to just leave those people to die while we wait around and see if there are any possible long-term effects from e-cigarettes? How many years are we going to wait? We know already that it's very hard to imagine a situation where these products could turn out to be any worse than cigarettes. In fact, I think it's virtually impossible that would be the case. There may be some negative long-term health consequences, but we won't have 7,000 people a year dying right now if we switch.
The benefit of e-cigarettes, I'm presuming, if you're somebody who smokes a lot, how do they sort of replace the hit that you get and I suppose the habit that you form from smoking?
I think it's partly, it's a tricky one. I can't really, as I'm not a user of the products myself, I can't really comment, but I would say, in general terms, I think they seem to mimic the delivery method, as in people have a psychological, enjoyment of putting the hand to the mouth and so on, inhaling. I think that's part of it. I think also it's the nature of the vaping, that the smoke that comes out and is produced and goes into the lungs. I think people like that, even though much of it is a lot less harmful than cigarette smoke. So So I think there's a psychological element to it, certainly, and also they're clearly getting a good hit of nicotine, which is what they're after. But it's interesting indeed that this product would seem to be more popular with people than other, say, nicotine replacement methods like chewing gum and patches and so on. So clearly, people who are smokers, this is more to their taste. It's not ideal, but if it's going to save lives, I think we have to look at it and start looking at it very seriously.
Just finally on the issue of, and you're absolutely right to say that the British Royal College of Physicians said, there's no evidence that it is a gateway to smoking. And this is purely anecdotal, and I accept it's probably not that, I'm not sure how relevant it is because of that. But I have personally noticed a number of young men walking around Dublin with e-cigarettes, and it did make me wonder, is this almost something of a fashion statement? I did wonder, were these guys who were trying to give up cigarettes, or were they guys who wouldn't have smoked normally? I don't know if you have a view on that.
I think, to be honest with you, look, fashions come and go among young people. I think, in fairness, among young people in general, I think smoking is less prevalent than it was, say, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I think it's hard to see these things kicking off as a fashion statement among young people. I'm not a dedicated follower of fashion, but I think young people would feel they probably look a bit stupid walking around with these things. I think they're far more likely to be taken up by people who are, committed smokers who basically have struggled to quit using other products and see this as a last resort. And as a doctor myself, patients do ask me, what do I think of these things? Because they have tried everything else. They've tried everything else and failed, and they want to know about this. And my attitude has been consistently, if nothing else has worked, go for it. But I'm kind of disappointed when I hear the rest of my profession kind of sitting on the fence on the issue.
I'm presuming there's a big class divide in there as well, is there?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't know the figures for the class divide, but certainly as a medical profession, there's no doubt that if you look into, in urban deprived areas, the smoking rates tend to be very, very high versus middle class areas. And that is an issue, absolutely. And as a result, it's the lower socioeconomic groups in society that are dying the most as a result of tobacco-related illness, and in my view will benefit the most from increased use of e-cigarettes.
That by far the lesser of two evils.
That's exactly right, yeah.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Dr. Ruairi Hanley, thanks indeed for joining us.
Thank you very much.